Hello, and welcome to our session. Today we're talking about an insider sneak peek of the WebAssign improvements coming this fall. So in this session, we're really going to be focused on what improvements we're releasing for the fall semester. But we do have some other cool things that are ready right now, as well as what's coming in the next year that we'll be able to share with you. So really excited to have you here. So my name is Shauna Campbell. I'm the product marketing manager for WebAssign, and I have a number of panelists here today as well that will introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Truce. I'm our platform product director for WebAssign.
Hey, everybody. I'm Mark Sandy. I'm the product director for engineering, computing, and math here at Cengage.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jake Campbell. I'm a senior product manager here at Cengage, working on applied math and advanced math, as well as some of the other things happening here at WebAssign. So thank you for joining.
Awesome. I'll turn this over to Andy.
All right, great. Thank you, Shauna. So kick it off. First, we'll cover the agenda for the day. So in today's session, first, we're going to start out with coming for the fall WebAssign instructor interface improvements that you all are going to see during the fall semester. Then we'll pass it over to Mark and Jay, who are going to talk about other content innovations and specifically common error assistance that'll be going live to help your students. We'll wrap up by talking about some other improvements we have going live soon, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So first, before we get into the immediate of what's launching, I thought we'd take a step back and just talk about where we've been. Over a couple of years ago, we went through an aggressive period where we really wanted to overhaul the student experience, modernize it a little bit, and ensure they had a welcome experience that first time they come into WebAssign. 2020, 2021, we heard you loud and clear that we need to improve our LMS integrations, and we took that on by adding grade sync into all of our LMS integrations. And we're going to continue to improve our LMS integrations over time. You'll hear a little bit more about an update coming shortly for that. And starting this year, we're also beginning the modernization of the instructor experience so that we can make teaching easier for you and ultimately make it easier for you to build high quality learning with WebAssign. So as we've been doing that, though, consistently, we've been investing in lots of other areas. We've put out consistent effort into new textbook editions, student help tools, unique WebAssign only content. And in the back end, behind the scenes, which you may not have seen, but we've been focusing on, is a lot of time and work to ensure that we have a reliable experience and that when students log in and when you log in, you can be rest assured that WebAssign is going to be working smoothly. So what's coming live for fall? Well, first off, I mentioned LMS updates. We do have an exciting one that to announce here that actually already is live. So previously, when a student got an ND or NS in the score view, never downloaded, never submitted, you had to do a little bit of manual work to get that over to the LMS and convert that as a 0. Don't have to do any of that work anymore. You can just click the Send Scores to LMS button in the score view, and that'll just automatically convert those off to 0s for you. Hopefully that goes off and saves you some time. We are also doing some work right now to actually automate that even further. So the 0s will just come over at the due date. So hopefully that saves you even more time. So those are some LMS improvements, but let's talk about the new instructor user experience that we've been working on. In terms of guiding principles, when we see our role, here at Cengage and how we create the path to student success, there's really 3 pillars of that. We know that you ultimately as educators, you know your students best. So we see our roles as ensuring that we're giving you flexibility at every step to teach how you want to teach. We're giving you flexibility in content, so you can use whatever content fits well into your curriculum, and that we do it all in a way that's affordable for your students. Now, the feedback that we've heard from many of you is that certainly love our robust content, certainly love the robust tools and the power of WebAssign. We just need to make it a little bit easier for you to access all of that content and tools. So how are we going to do that? There's really 3 pillars to how we're going about improving the instructor user experience in WebAssign. You'll be seeing these pillars in some of the work that's going live this fall that'll hopefully make teaching easier. And we're also going to follow these 3 pillars over in ensuing releases that are going to happen over the coming years. Number 1, you're going to see a brand new, modern, and intuitive interface. It's going to look cleaner in the same way that the student side does, just to try to improve your ease of use. Number 2, we're not going to necessarily redesign all of WebAssign tomorrow. We know that that would be a burden for all of you to have to learn a brand new platform, and there's a lot of other things to worry about with the semester starting. So what we're going to do and take piecemeal parts of WebAssign that we know you're using the most, with a focus on the parts that are most related to learning, And over time, we're going to update those. And you'll have the ability to opt in into all things that you see. So when you're ready, you can do that. And if you want to always opt out, you'll have that ability as well for quite some time. And then 3, alluding to, we have tons of great content, tons of great settings. All the time, we work with many of you that may have used WebAssign for 10 years, but may not realize certain things are actually possible in the system. So what we're doing is also working to make some of those things easier to find for you. So as we've been going through this process, we've involved you at every step. In some cases, myself, in some cases, my colleague Mike Norris, who's on the call, and in some cases, our research team have been talking to many of you in different types of research sessions, some moderated, some unmoderated, some in surveys, some in live sessions that are one-on-one focus groups and whatnot. And we've tried to take all of that and really prioritize the things that we heard the most, where we can make the biggest impact. So we systematically actually observed many of you using WebAssign and just doing common tasks and looking at how often you failed or succeeded at doing different things in WebAssign. And we also looked at a lot of the data, analyzed over 500,000 assignments and looked at, well, what are you actually doing in the system? And went into that. And to get into, we'll get into what's actually going live this October, November, this fall. So where are we today? Like I said, we really wanted to focus on improving quality of learning and making it easier for you to build and manage your assignments. We heard that was important to many of you. This is the assignment editor, as you all know today, tons of power and great options that are certainly available. We wanted to make those a little bit easier. So I'm going to switch screens here and we'll walk through what's going to be the new experience. When this goes live, there may be certain tweaks that we'll make to wording or a button here or there as we continue to get feedback. If you do have feedback, continue to put it in the chat. We will be reading this and we're going to continue to take that feedback as we continue to build. But this will represent basically what's going to go live, like I said, during the October, November timeframe. So we've taken the assignment creation and management process and moved it into 3 simple steps: information, settings, and questions. So step 1, put in your name, the instructions to students. From our data, we've noticed that actually 3/4 of assignments in WebAssign don't have any instructions, and the bulk of the ones that do, they might note like the learning objectives or when an assignment is due. This is a great opportunity, if you want to embed a PDF of your class notes, a video, maybe from Cengage, maybe a video that you've created yourself. Maybe you want to embed a Desmos calculator. There's tons of different opportunities and things that you can actually embed in here as it fully supports HTML. So that's an option in terms of the instructions. Let's move into the next step. And we've taken all the settings and tried to simplify it into 3 course areas: scoring, student feedback, and academic integrity. So you'll see you have the templates on top to get you started. And then scoring controls all things about how the assignment is graded. So number of submissions, you can see we've simplified all the options, haven't taken anything away, but 1, 2, 3, 5, you can do an unlimited number of submissions. That's easy to do. How assignments are graded, that's certainly still here. And the point adjustments are now a little bit easier to find. For those of you who haven't seen this before, there's a couple of great options here. This bottom one, add based on early submission, is a great opportunity to engage your students. We've looked at the data on when students submit their homework relative to when the assignment is due. The data says exactly what you think and experience. There's very little activity, and then there's a huge spike when you get to the due date. So if you want to add credit, even if it's just a small amount for doing that work early, you certainly can. There's
Hey,
also
Andy,
yes.
do you mind zooming in just a little bit?
Yeah, let me see if hopefully that helps a little bit there.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling that out, Shauna. So there's also the opportunity here to deduct based on number of submissions. So for those of you who maybe, you're looking at your homework scores, students are getting 100 or close to 100 on everything, and the exam scores just aren't where you want them to be. If you haven't tried this, it might be something to experiment with. Just taking away a small amount, just 1%, 2% of credit. If they've used way too many submissions, just enough to incentivize them to put a little bit more thought into each one of those attempts, but not deduct so much that it's really demotivating for them. So those are certainly options that are there. In terms of advanced settings, those are certainly other options that are available around overriding tolerance. And for those of you who teach chemistry, significant figures. Don't recommend overriding the tolerance, but it's something you can do if you understand it. We also have a brand new option here for SALT, which is our statistical analysis and learning tool. For those of you who teach statistics with WebAssign, you probably know we launched a brand new tool embedded with WebAssign that makes it easy for students to do statistical analysis on data sets. It's been well received. For those of you who don't want to use it, or you only want to use parts of it, that's now possible as an option here. You can turn this to be on to actually work with our statistical analysis and learning tool. You can make it on, but only have students have access to the distribution calculator and not allow them to do inferential statistics and other types of charts and graphs and sampling analysis in here. Or you can turn it off completely if you just want students to use Excel or other options for data analysis. So that's certainly there. In terms of student feedback, a lot of the same options that you have today are still here, but we're just presenting them in an easier to use manner. Answer key, feedback, basically everything that students see after they put in a submission, or in some cases help before they get to try the submission. That's all here. You can turn it on and off, either always show it. You can turn it on to show only after a certain number of submissions or after the due date. Of course, if you have students who maybe you want them to have some productive struggle and don't want them to immediately see everything, turning on the help content or practice another version after only a couple of attempts could be something to maybe experiment with a little bit. And then finally, in terms of academic integrity, different options here. There's, of course, academic integrity is a complicated topic. There's a lot of things that you can do to prevent cheating in WebAssign. Our colleague Mike Lafreniere will be doing a session on that tomorrow. We've highlighted a few of them here in terms of different randomizations that you can do with shuffling. You can turn off the textbook name, the name of the question here as well. So when students do an assignment in WebAssign, it will say typically SCalc 9.1.002, which tells them that's question 2 of section 9.1 of Stewart Calculus. Occasionally, they can Google those types of things, as you all know. If you want to turn that off and make it a little harder to Google, that's certainly an option here. But we'll talk a little bit more about academic integrity if you join our Summer of Learning session tomorrow. So those are some of the settings that are there. Getting into the questions themselves, if you go off and click the Add Questions, that's going to go into the question browser that you all know today, where you can peruse all of our existing content. I will give a sneak peek that this is going to change in the future. We are going to redesign this and make it easier to find all of the amazing content that's in WebAssign. But for now and for this fall, this will stay exactly the same, and you can still find all the great content that we already have. So when you go off and add questions, let's just imagine that I added these right here. You'll be able to see the questions that you've added and settings. So if you want to have more control over how much the different questions are worth, you certainly have a lot of those controls here, and tried to make it a little easier to do other per question settings. So if you have a multiple choice question and perhaps you're allowing 5 submissions for all of your other questions, but that multiple choice question only has 5 options, this gives you the opportunity to maybe change that to only 2 or 3. So you can do that. If you want to require showing of work, you can do that. It's a great opportunity for something to do for maybe just one question for a test. Certainly wouldn't recommend more than that, especially for those of you with large class sizes. It's gonna be a lot of work to grade. But to just ask them for them to show their work on just one question, great opportunity to see what can they actually solve and show their work on that problem that they might have solved perfectly. A couple other options here that we've tried to make easier for you, extra credit. So if you have a question that's maybe more challenging and you want to make it an extra credit problem, maybe perhaps engage, as a way to engage your students further, certainly that's an option. If you have a problem, which later also you find you assigned it seemed like a great question at the time, you find that your students tanked it and they didn't do so well, you want to mark it correct for everyone, made that a little bit easier for you as well to do. And then finally, in terms of student feedback, I talked a little bit about providing only certain types of help after a certain number of submissions at the assignment level, getting into scaffolding, which we have another session on from Willem Walenga, who's leading. If you want to provide help tools, but like practice another version or help content, but maybe for a few of the problems, really force them to do a few attempts first. And again, let them have that productive struggle. If you want to enable it for a few problems, you can certainly do that. And that's an option here.
And Andy?
Yes.
We had a really good question come in. What about optional show my work?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is for requiring showing the work at the problem level. Let me go back here in the scoring, you can see allow students to show their work. If you check this, that basically makes everything optional. And then from there, if you want to make individual problems required, you can certainly do that. But by default, if you want things just optional, you can just use this setting here and this will do that for you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, great question. One more question setting, certainly wanted to expose a little bit more also the add custom hint option. So we certainly have feedback that's built into a lot of WebAssign content, and of course, watch it, master it, and many other great pieces of help content to help. But if your students keep emailing you about a certain problem that they're struggling on, and you don't want to keep emailing them the same thing, you can add a custom hint. Clicking this will allow you to type in some text, or if you want to link out to a video or some other material that you already have, you can add a custom hint on the problem. What that'll do is students will all see that as feedback when working through it. So that's what you're going to see a lot of what's going live for the fall. Hopefully y'all like what you see. Please do leave us feedback, in the chat, and keep asking great questions in the Q&A. We did one of the focus groups that we did where we asked how interesting this would be if this went live. We certainly saw good responses. We asked on the scale of 1 to 7. We heard mostly 7s, except for one instructor, I guess, didn't read the question and answered a 10, but that's perfectly okay. So hopefully you agree this is clean, modern, and streamlined. We're also going to be launching, we want to make sure it's easy to get to things in WebAssign, a brand new, more intuitive navigation banner. So what you saw before is, of course, what it looks like today. What you're seeing here is similar to what will look like when we go live during the October-November timeframe. So hopefully, again, cleaner, just trying to make it easier for you to get to the things that you ultimately use often in WebAssign, so you can save time with WebAssign and spend more time actually teaching. So all things that you saw today, like I said earlier, it's really important. So as we know, again, we've heard from you, we don't want to be disruptive with how we do our launches. We want to make sure that if you're not ready to opt into something, or it's not the right time, that we're not forcing you to do that. So you'll see new options. You're seeing one right here in the assignment editor. You'll see another one, another place in WebAssign as well. There'll be plenty of notifications, but you'll have the ability to opt into the new experience when you're ready, and that will be available quite some time. So hopefully, like what you see, again, leave feedback. We have a lot more coming. I'm going to cover a little bit more of what's coming as we wrap up. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Mark, who's going to talk about new content enhancements to improve learning in WebAssign.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks, everybody. So my name again is Mark Santi. I'm the product director for math and engineering here at Cengage. I wanted to give you all a sense of what our content strategy is. We are spending a lot of time and resources into building out a better content experience for you and your students. But to give you kind of a high-level overview, what you'll be seeing from the Cengage team are a lot fewer book revisions. We're trying to only revise textbooks as needed. So we're not working on every 3 years, you'll find a new edition of a textbook available. We're really kind of focused on updating revisions as needed. And in certain markets and courses like statistics, where data changes a lot, you'll see a little more frequent revisions than, say, other books or other course areas like linear algebra, where the content doesn't change as much. But what we're doing instead is a lot more frequent digital updates. So we're investing a lot more into building out WebAssign content and other digital assets for all of our courses in WebAssign. But the approach we're taking is very different depending on each individual course area, because every course area has different needs. And what Andy said earlier about the project that we're working on for the question browser, we're going to be adding a lot more question types and a lot more new questions. And one of our focal points for that project is making it easier for you to find that content when you're building out your assignments or when you're starting to think about your next course assignments for your next term. And the other thing that we're really focused on is building out more question banks. We know you have access to the textbook questions that you've selected. So we're trying to build out additional generic question banks for all of the different course areas that we publish in, just so you have more questions for testing, for practice, and other questions that come out of, outside of the textbook. But when we look at the individual course areas, like I mentioned earlier, we're really trying to focus our digital updates on what each individual student needs, depending on the course level that they're in. So moving on to the next slide, When you look at our courses below calculus, like developmental math up through college algebra, including liberal arts math, what we're really focused on is just-in-time remediation. So you'll start seeing things like this Learn It module popping up as additional help or feedback for students as they're working through their lower level math courses. That really helps them focus on specific learning objectives where they may be struggling. So you'll find every Learn It that we have available. There's one for every learning objective across the developmental math curriculum, now moving into college algebra and liberal arts as well. But each one has a chunked piece of narrative just specific to that learning objective, as well as a video, a tutorial help so students can practice their skills, and then additional practice problems so students can work through each individual learning objective and get that help that they need. So that's looking at the below calculus level. When you look at calculus and above, we know those students have different needs as well. So we're really focused on helping them in two different areas: improving their problem-solving skills by adding more problems like explore it problems, more master it tutorials, more expanded problems, which ask students to give a little insight into what went into finding their final answer. But we're also trying to focus more on their logic skills as well as their conceptual skills. So you'll see in calculus and in advanced math right up through discrete math, we have a lot more of a focus on new proof questions. So students are being asked to construct proofs, and then the system, WebAssign, is automatically grading those proofs. So grading what the student's logical progression is to help them better master and understand the concepts for those higher order math courses. But then if you look at the other courses in WebAssign, like statistics or engineering or applied math, we're really focused on what those particular students need. A good example is in statistics, where Andy mentioned it earlier. We have our new statistics analysis and learning tool, which we built out to specifically help students better understand real-time data analysis using large data sets, where they can visualize graphically what a data set means and then answer their WebAssign questions based on that. So that's some of the content strategy that we're rolling out. But one thing that you'll start to see beginning this fall across all of our WebAssign courses is this new common error assistance feedback, which we really believe is going to have a big change in the way that students are interacting with their WebAssign content and their assignments. And to explain more to you about what that is, I'm going to pass it along to Jay Campbell, our Senior Product Manager for Applied and Advanced Math, who spent a lot of time with his team working on this project. So I want to let him show you what it's all about. Take it away, Jay.
All right, thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone, and thanks again for giving us some time to show you some of these things today. So as been mentioned, we have this new feature that will be coming out in select titles that will be available for the beginning of fall classes, is what we're calling Common Error Assistance. So this is one of our ways that we're offering answer-specific feedback in WebAssign. If any of you teach physics, you might have seen that there is answer feedback in some of those physics titles, particularly the survey titles. This Common Error Assistance will be serving a slightly different need than that. So we want to tell you about that. And overall, we know other systems have feedback, but one of the things that we've seen, and perhaps you have as well, is that the feedback consists of more like general hints, not anything that's specifically connected to what the student answered in the system. So really what we wanted to do with Common Error Assistance is really make that feedback answer specific. So what it is, it's answer specific guidance that really is meant to act more like a tutor to kind of steer the students back in the right direction so that they can eventually get the answer. So that's kind of what it is, and some important things about what it's not or what it doesn't do. It doesn't give the students the answer. It doesn't tell them exactly what to do, and it doesn't tell them exactly how to do it. And he gave the term productive struggle earlier. And so that's kind of what this guidance is supposed to do. Let them know about where they need to be looking, but they're the ones that do have to eventually get the correct answer and do the work. So we've done a lot of research on this. We've done a lot of focus groups. to come up with some of these sort of core ideas about what you have told us that answer specific guidance and answer feedback should be. So over time, common error assistance is going to encompass, multiple layers of answer specific feedback. What we're showing right now is this first layer. So stuff that will be available beginning in fall classes of this year, releasing this to select math and statistic titles. And to really sort of describe it, I want to sort of give what is probably a familiar scenario for all of you. So you get a message from a student saying that something's wrong with WebAssign because they got the right answer, but the system keeps marking it wrong. And then you have to spend some time with the student to figure out what's going on. And it turned out they actually did get the right answer. You can see from their work that they did get the correct final answer. They just typed something in wrong. So we know this is frustrating for you and for the students. So we have something now that is meant to help with that, and that's what this common error assistance is. So if you want to think of it like spell check, just for math. And what it'll do, is alert the students to the error, again, sort of point them back in the right direction to be able to fix the mistake themselves. But again, it won't give them the right answer, and it won't tell them exactly what to do, and it won't tell them how to do it. So it'll be able to check for about 30 different types of things. And this is just a non-exhaustive list here. So it can check for things like improper rounding, especially if a question has, it says, round to 3 decimals, and it does more or it does less. It'll catch those things. Incorrect fraction formatting, if they somehow switch the numerator denominator, for an example. Order of magnitude. This would be something, for example, in scientific notation, where if it's some number times 10 to the 8th, and the correct answer is that number times 10 to the 9th, it will alert them that there's an error with that. If they use the wrong variables or wrong capitalization with variables, it'll catch them with that. For example, if an applied problem, regarding time is using a variable t, and they answered in terms of variable y or variable x, it'll catch that. If they somehow miss an exponent or format an exponent incorrectly, it'll catch that. It'll look at things with signs. So, like I said, that's just a non-exhaustive list of the number of things that it will catch. And we know that you generally prefer to have flexibility in terms of how these things work, so this can be turned off at the assignment level. So here's a screenshot of what it looks like. This is a screenshot of our sample assignment that you get off of WebAssign.net. So the nice thing about this is that you can actually go through this sample assignment on your own. That text up there at the top shows you some things that you can use to be able to trigger the different types of feedback that are available. But just looking at the exercise itself, perform the indicated operations. If you look at the answer in there, you should see that first term should be 8x squared, and it just says 8x2. So a student puts that in. The system does mark it incorrect and says you may have typed an exponent wrong. Use the caret for a superscript exponent. Looking at another example, this one's about prime factorization. You can see that 3 times 6, that 6 can be broken down a little bit further. And so the system just tells them one or more of your factors is not prime. And so the student has to look at that and be able to know what that means, and then be able to then get the correct answer. So as I mentioned, those screenshots came from a sample assignment that we have. That the web address for that is listed here. You'll be getting all of this afterwards, so you'll be able to check all these things out on your own. As I mentioned, the sample assignment is self-guided. There's, I think, 9 questions in there, and you can just copy and paste literally out of that text box above each question, and those are the things that will trigger the different wrong answers and will trigger all that feedback. So this is the list of titles that will be that will have common error assistance. Like I said, it will be available for fall classes, not during. So it'll be right at the beginning when courses are available. You can see there's a selection of pre-calculus titles, a couple of applied calculus titles, and then some statistics titles there listed on the right. And again, all this will be in the additional information that we send out. Now to kind of talk a little bit about what that next sort of stage of feedback is going to be. We're working on, a more robust set. If you want to think of the common error assistance, that first thing that I was showing as spell check, this next level is going to be something more akin to, say, Grammarly, or something that dives even deeper into some of the different types of errors that students will make, whether it's conceptual, computational, all these different types of things. So here's an example of a question. So questions about implicit differentiation. And this is just an error that they might make when trying to set up the derivative. And so it marks it incorrect, and it says, appears that you've multiplied the derivative factor of the first term. Review the product rule for derivatives. Another example, again, on the same question. Student just missed a step while doing the chain rule. And the feedback you can see there is a chain rule step missing somewhere. Did you use the chain rule everywhere it should be used? And then we'll have sort of one additional category of feedback. And this is for something where, it doesn't match any of sort of the prescribed common errors that will be programmed into the system. And, especially this might be a student who just really doesn't know where to start. So we'll offer feedback like this. Courage, you can differentiate side of this equation using rules you already know. Click on the read it link to review the concepts you need. That, we're hoping that will be helpful just, in and of itself, but we also want to reference that there is the read it link that they can go back to and go back into the textbook to review information that they might need for that particular question. And that is what we have about feedback. So now we're going to go back to you, Andy.
All right, thanks, Jay. So now you've seen some of the updates that we have coming to our content across our different course areas. And of course, as Mark mentioned, with our digital update strategy, we're going to continue to offer new content regularly outside of just new textbook editions. But looking forward, some other things that we have coming down the pike in the coming year in WebAssign. So all textbooks in WebAssign, as you may know, come with course packs. Course packs are pre-built assignments that our subject matter experts and product teams have put together. So you don't have to necessarily start from scratch when teaching a course. So today, if you want to adopt these, they're certainly available, and there's a lot of assignments in them. What we're looking at to make them easier to use is giving you the ability so that you can click on each one of these individual assignments. So if there's just, maybe you're already teaching calculus, you don't need a course pack, but maybe that getting started with WebAssign assignment that you see up top, that's something that you don't have as a way to introduce students to using WebAssign. You can just click on the check mark for that, add it, and you'll be all set to go. And when you click add course packs, it'll just automatically schedule that to be the last day of class. And from there, you can reschedule it. So course packs are, of course, already available today. But we're going to be offering us the ability to select some of these individual assignments and give you more control there. You can see an example here with our calculus one that it comes with also review. We know about all of the readiness gaps that your students are coming in with, and that's only getting worse over time. So certainly, maybe you already have your calculus assignments, but you need some readiness ones for pre-calculus. And of course, the same applies for many of our course areas as well, where we have other readiness solutions. So that's coming with course packs. Other things that we have coming live. Mastery-based learning. I know this is a term that I know comes up a lot. It means different things to different people. And certainly today, if you want to create some form of mastery-based learning, you can do that via the conditional release feature in WebAssign. with the conditional release feature in WebAssign, you can require it so that students have to get a certain percentage on an entire assignment to open up a new assignment. What we're looking at, though, is giving you a little bit more granular control. So today, you can, of course, build question pools in WebAssign. Let's imagine you're building question pools in WebAssign, and each pool covers a different topic or a different learning objective. And let's say that you want to make sure that your students really have a good grasp of all of the different topics that are in this assignment. What we're going to be looking at offering is brand new mastery-based settings. So you can set a threshold and say, you know what, I want students to be able to get a 66%, 70%, whatever it may be on each topic. And if they don't get that, they get nothing. So that you can ensure that students, if they got most of the assignment right, but they're really struggling on a few things, don't let them just gloss over that. We all know that when that happens, the problems only get worse as the semester goes on, the material gets more difficult. Really force them to go back and learn that material, keep practicing until they get a sufficient number right and get that credit. So those will be some new settings that we're going to offer. Don't have to use them. With WebAssign, of course, we encourage flexibility and you can teach how you want to teach. But if this looks interesting to you to have these mastery-based settings where you're really forcing the students to get a certain amount right on each question pool before they can move on and get credit, you'll certainly now have that as a new option for you. We're going to continue to also look at our settings and offer new ones over time as we get more feedback from you on what else would be impactful for you for teaching and learning. And with that, I'll pass to Shauna to wrap up.
Thanks, Andy. Sorry, I was having trouble with my video. Awesome. So if anyone has any questions, please continue to drop it into the Q&A. You can go ahead and stop sharing your screen if that's a little easier. It looks like everyone's very excited about the course packs and the mastery-based learning, Common Era Assistance, which we're all very excited about. One question I did see come in was asking about the titles that are available for Common Era Assistance. So I did share the link to our landing page, which has a list of titles. We'll continue to update that. Let's see what else. So Dan asked about how to make a question pool. So I'm going to take that one real quick. We are covering question pools tomorrow in our test and exams session. So I do recommend you go over to that one. We can post a link in the chat, but we'll be covering testing as well as question pools. We have some questions about some content. Reading through here. So Andy, I know you mentioned about the question browser and how that's not going to change just yet. Do you want to share a little bit about what the plans are for changing that in the future? Are we doing that now, next, or where does that kind of lay in the roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I shared earlier, a lot of our focus with improving the instructor experience for all of you is around making teaching easier and making it easier for you to build high quality learning. So of course, if you're going to build high quality learning, we know it needs to be easy for you to find a lot of the high quality content that we've put into our products. So as I said earlier, this fall during October, November, the question browser is going to work exactly the same as it always has. But what we are starting to work on, and that we hope to be live in the next year, and if not, it is an immediate focus for us, is a redesigned version of that with filters that'll make it easier for you to find content for certain learning objectives and questions that have different types of help content and other things that you may be looking for. We know we certainly have a lot of content in WebAssign, thousands of questions across most of our titles. So we're going to be working on making it easier for you to find the content you need via that question browser. And as I also mentioned as well, we have course packs today with pre-built assignments that do take advantage of a lot of that great content that already have a lot of that built in. And we're going to be making it easier for you as well to adopt the pre-built courses. So you'll have an easier ability to use the pre-built ones and an easier ability to build your own.
So thank you. Dale was wondering, do you have an assignment example of the mastery-based learning?
I'd love to know a little bit more about what you mean by that. I mean, certainly we will have some course packs which will take advantage of this in some course areas to kind of show examples of like how this might be implemented, if that's what you mean. But if you want to follow up with another question, I'd love to know a little bit more about how we can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we did have a question actually before you even got into mastery-based learning. Someone was asking if the question pooling or the mastery-based learning question pools would be available for fall.
Yeah, so the mastery-based setting that you're seeing there, that's brand new and that's not going to be live this fall. That's going to be coming later. But certainly if you want to start building question pools today, where the pools are built around, of course, different learning objectives, you can absolutely do that today.
So this is an easy one for you. Can you access the course packs no matter what textbook you're using?
Yes, absolutely. So maybe if we can drop in the chat, maybe a help article about where to find the course packs for anyone who's not familiar. But yeah, absolutely. Virtually all of our titles have course packs available with them to make it easier to have pre-built assignments, or like I said, maybe you already have your course, but you're looking at adding testing and you need some testing, or maybe you want some more getting started assignments that walk students through how to use WebAssign and the pads and many of the other class insights and things like that. So certainly those are already available and you can use them today.
Awesome. We've been getting a lot of questions about Show My Work in terms of points and everything like that. Are we looking at any innovations to Show My Work in the future?
We're not looking at any innovations necessarily to Show My Work. I see Dee Dee, you've asked some questions about it. I might have to follow up with you separately to get a little deeper into maybe some of the challenges you faced, and we'll see if we can work through those.
Awesome. So everyone keep dropping your questions in the Q&A. I know, Diane, you have a question about Blackboard. We do have Blackboard sessions, as well as all the other LMS sessions if you're interested in those the next 2 days, so they can show you how to walk through those. And then there's questions about, are all of these updates being applied to every single textbook?
Are we talking about the interface updates or the common error assistance?
I think both.
Both, yeah. So I mean, with the interface updates, there's certainly that's going to be available for all courses, regardless of what you teach with WebAssign. It's going to be the exact same interface, and you'll have the exact same ability to opt in when you're ready. And I believe we shared earlier with the common error assistance, the list of titles that were going to be live immediately. And I didn't know if you want to share that again, or if you have specific questions or specific titles that you're curious about, certainly put those in the chat and we can try to answer that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are getting a lot of questions about specific textbooks and if things are available. You can definitely check out the product pages for those. So those are just the textbook page that you see when you create your course. That dives deep into exactly which questions are available. So you can definitely get quick answers on that, or your rep can always help you with that as well. Great. So we're getting a lot of questions in. These are more content specific questions. But I think we've covered most of them. Unless there's anything else for Andy in here, I think we're good. Is there anything else that you wanted to share, Andy, about your plan or your roadmap?
Hopefully everyone's excited about some of the things that we have coming in WebAssign. So again, make teaching easier and make it easier for you to build high quality learning. We know we already have a ton of great content and tools. Want to make it easier for you. But certainly, of course, as you have feedback and ideas, please leave us. Please leave all of that for us, and we take that into consideration as we're building. We can't build all of this without you.
And we are continuing to offer new things. I know we release new content every semester, but these new innovations are a huge, significant change that we've released recently. So definitely check out webassign.com/new. That's where we post all of the new updates. You'll see it in your in-app messaging. We put it in our newsletter and our social media channels on Facebook and Twitter. So please feel free to check us out on all the channels so you can be the first to get the updates.